Welcome to the On the Air podcast, a companion to On the Air magazine, a bi-monthly magazine from ARRL for beginner to intermediate ham radio licensees. I'm your host and the editor of On the Air, Becky Schoenfeld, W1BXY. Every month, the On the Air podcast extends material found in On the Air magazine to help you learn more about everything the ham radio hobby and service has to offer. The On the Air podcast is sponsored by ICOM for the love of ham radio. Welcome to the October 2025 episode. The September-October 2025 issue of On the Air magazine features an article entitled The EOC, Serving at the Hub by Rick Palm, K1CE, which talked about what an Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, is, and offered tips for hams who are serving at an EOC for the first time. With us today, we have ARRL Director of Emergency Management, Josh Johnston, KE5MHV, who is here to tell us more about how an Emergency Operations Center functions and what hams need to know before they walk into one. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So first of all, what exactly is an Emergency Operations Center?
So in most communities, first of all, you've got different levels of emergency operations centers. You may have a state emergency operations center that serves for a whole state or a whole area. You may have regional, or you may have even local or county, city emergency operations centers. They can vary slightly, but the primary function of each of them remains the same. It's the collaboration center where all of your decision makers in all of the potential areas that are being affected by an emergency would come together to collaborate to provide better resources to the people who are boots on the ground, or to the people working the operations level of an incident, whether it be man-made or weather-related disasters or whatever.
So in terms of the article that appeared in the September-October issue, it refers to the EOC as a hub. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like with what you described, it really is that. It's
absolutely.
The center point.
Absolutely. So, your goal, depending on what is affected in a particular event, you are typically, as the article points out, you are typically going to have your different emergency support functions who are in place. You're also going to have kind of the center hub of that. Your ESS, emergency support functions, kind of serve as your spokes to the wheel. And the center hub of that is going to be your command staff, such as your emergency manager. It could be your logistics section, your planning section, and so on and so forth. All of those spelled out in the incident command system as to what their roles are.
Okay. So those folks that you just mentioned, they would be state or county employees?
In most cases, those would be employees, either volunteer employees or full-time employees for the state, county, city, whatever level the emergency operations center is.
Okay. Would an EOC be an independent location, or can they be co-located with fire or police?
It could be either one,
yeah.
And you definitely see it. A lot of communities, especially some of the smaller communities around the country, have now these really nice new public safety centers that have fire, police, and even possibly EMS all in one location. And a lot of times they will co-locate an emergency operations center right there at that location. So there are situations where they can be co-located, but then you've got other independent situations where emergency management operates and manages the emergency operations center that would be at an independent location from fire, law enforcement, or whoever.
Okay. So back to this idea of the EOC being the hub with spokes radiating from it. So I would imagine that some of the spokes would be fire, police,
right.
Ambulance. You mentioned earlier the emergency support functions, the ESFs.
Right. So you've got 15 emergency support functions, and they range everything from transportation, firefighting, public works, search and rescue, hazmat, energy, which is even include your people don't think a lot of times about their electric companies, and those people would have a seat in a lot of cases at an emergency operations center if they're being affected, which in many storms especially, power can be affected. Long-term community recovery is also one of the functions. Housing, so on and so forth, can all be part of that. Those are all different emergency support functions, and could all have a seat at the emergency operations center, depending on the beauty of having everyone to come together at one emergency operations center is for the distribution of resources. And if you've got, for instance, amateur radio, while we have a function in ESF2 communications. The auxiliary communicator is part of the communications unit in the logistics section. So not part of necessarily the ESFs, because we see in many cases where during search and rescue events, we have to send amateur radio operators out to assist those teams that are doing searches in the field. That's where you work with your logistics section chief and your communications unit leader to say, hey, we need some amateur radio operators to go with this search and rescue mission to help with this. So you've got communications then that spreads out through the different spokes, and that's what's able to be done at an emergency operations center, is you coordinate different ESFs providing assistance in other areas to get the job done to the best efficiency as possible.
So in the example you just provided, ESF2 communications they would be determining what's needed in terms of communications.
A lot of that's going to be, for instance, search and rescue may say, hey, we need a way to communicate back.
Okay.
So they come back to the emergency operations center, probably by phone or by radio or whatever. Okay. And say we need communications support to assist us with multiple teams out in the field. Okay. Well, then you have your decision makers there at the emergency operations center that come together, and it may be ESF2, it may be the logistics section chief, and the communications unit leader that go, hey, we've got this team, this team, this team, and this team. I can send this one and this one with search and rescue. Okay. This one and this one may have to go with fire, or and so on and so forth. So you make those decisions here of, I've got these that we can move in different places. But they're the ones that make the decisions on we've got, for instance, we may have people in a staging area that are awaiting an assignment, and these are where they make the decisions on where the assignment goes and who they can provide the resource to that area.
Okay, so it sounds like even though these 15 emergency support functions, the ESFs, are some of the spokes off the hub, it sounds like they're also communicating across one another and working together.
Yes. That's the purpose of having the EOC, is because you have those all of those representation of all of those spokes that's there that can talk about, hey, can you provide communications? Can you provide me with so and so? Law enforcement may go to, I've seen this happen in situations before where law enforcement may be needing to get a road opened up. So they may go to Public Works and say, hey, do you have some heavy equipment that can help us get this road opened up? And that's another situation. Yeah. And remember, typically as auxiliary communicators, as amateur radio operators, we're there to provide a support to an incident. We're not typically going to be the primary. The other area that we wind up providing a lot is in ESF6, which is mass care.
Oh, yeah.
Where we've got people at shelters and they're needing communications back to the emergency operations center or to the command post. And we've got amateur radio operators that can be at those mass care facilities. So that's just another example where you've got the people that are doing the mass care. We're there to provide the communication support for that.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so all these emergency support functions, the ESFs, there are 15 of those, and there's actually a list of those in the article that we're talking about that's in the September-October issue. So, and we may be able to get you a copy of that list right here in this video. So you've talked about some of the different kinds of things that hams might be assigned to do. So it is folks farther up the chain in those ESFs that are making those assignments?
Typically, yes. Most of the time in the Emergency Operations Center, you're going to have people who are the decision makers in those groups, because you need to be able to have those discussions and have those, hey, I need this. Who can help me with this? And you may have people that's not their normal day-to-day job, but they can provide that support.
Okay.
And so you need to have people that are able to say, I've got this person and this person and this person that have these capabilities. Would that help you? I may not have exactly what you're looking for, but I've got people that could provide assistance in a certain situation. And different situations arise and it could vary incident by incident. So each individual event could be different.
So you just mentioned somebody saying, I understand that you need this and this kind of person with these qualities or these resources. I don't have exactly that, but I may be able to get you this. Is there a set of skills that a ham should have if they're going to be, if they're likely to be assigned to an EOC? Do you have to be very experienced and skilled, or are there roles for...
And typically the people coming to be assigned to the EOC, that's probably going to be a decision that's made well before an incident. That's going to be someone, because not every ham needs to be at the EOC.
Sure.
We need people, like we mentioned earlier, out in the field. Those, so you may have 2 or 3 people, hams max, at the EOC. It could vary. But at the actual Emergency Operations Center, you're typically 1, 2, 3 people that will be more of a decision makers on, we've got this capability or this group or this person or whatever, and the skills that's needed to be there and to do that. Knowledge of the incident command system is going to be essential. Most people assigned to an EOC are going to be pre-credentialed through the county or through the whatever entity they're there to serve, especially if you're at even counties, but especially at the state level. You can't just, anybody can't just walk into the State Emergency Operations Center. It's going to be people that are predetermined. They may have a list of 5 or 6 that they've pre-qualified, or that they have said you have to have this training. In a lot of cases, Emergency Operations Center training, they're going to require you to have ICS 300 included. So you're going to have the ICS training, be knowledgeable of the incident command system. You're going to have to be knowledgeable of the skills and the people and capabilities that you've got out in the field. So having, and it can vary somewhat based on incident, but it could also vary based on where you are and what the requirements of that Emergency Operations Center are.
Okay.
But the people that are going to go to the EOC, and that's one thing I think that's important to understand, is not every person is going to be assigned to the EOC, but that doesn't mean you're less valuable. Those people at the EOC are simply the ones that have been working with typically a period of time with the emergency manager or whoever the EOC manager is.
Okay. For a newer ham who reads on the air and may be watching or listening to this podcast, who's really interested in being of service, do you have any advice for what they should involve themselves in?
Absolutely.
What kind of credentialing they should get in order to maybe someday be a candidate for being assigned to EOC?
Sure. I would start with our task book, the ARRL task book. Start working through your levels there. Start working through now available basic and intermediate. next year we will have the advanced course completed and out. It'll be, we hope earlier next year than later, but in 2026, I'll go out on a limb and say the first half of 2026, we're going to have that course finished and out to everyone. So you'll have the 3 levels of our training. Those task book functions include your ICS training. So to complete our task book completely, you have to do the online ICS courses as well. We recommend the 300 and 400 where those are available.
And those are free of charge.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're free of charge through the FEMA website. They're
right?
self-paced on the FEMA website, and you can take those courses all online.
Great.
So you are required to have a FEMA ID number, but so there's those. But the other big skill is having that working relationship with those local officials, whoever, whether it's local or state. You have to have that relationship ahead of time to be actually in the EOC. So if you're a new ham that's gotten involved and gotten started with a group, get involved with a local group, and as they build and grow, and you've completed task books and you're beginning to do things, the more things you're able to provide assistance in, whether it's out in the field, whether it's storm spotting, whether it's whatever function you're doing, the more active you're involved, and the more you demonstrate that you've taken the time to take the training and to know and gain the knowledge that's needed, the more opportunity you're going to be down the road to be able to be brought in and assist in those emergency operations center type areas.
Yeah. How about, training certainly is very important. Are there any of the soft skills that they look for?
I think, so this is, being involved in nets is one of the things. And having proficiency on the air. And I'm an advocate that, there are so many people get hung up on, I'm a contester, I'm an MCOM person, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. Yeah. If you're an avid contester, but also do MCOM, in a lot of cases, that skill of contesting is valuable in your listening skills, in your mind management of when things get busy on the air.
Yep.
I had a ham told me when I first got into the hobby is the best filter you've got is between these 2 ears. Yep. It's not the ears. It's thinking through and listening to those signals. And that's true in this because things can get busy either during an incident or at the Emergency Operations Center or out in the field, either one. And the better filtering capability and ability to handle stressful situations really helps in these situations.
Okay. Do folks who are assigned to an EOC, is there anything that they should know to bring with them? Do they have to bring their own equipment, any kind of personal supplies?
It's going to vary by facility. In a lot of cases, the facility has amateur radio equipment there. Yeah. If you're there to operate. In some cases, you're not even there to operate. You're there to help make decisions. And so you may be, now, this is the other thing I'll tell you. I know of some emergency operations centers that if you show up in less than a sport coat and a pair of dress slacks, they're not going to let you in the door.
Oh, wow.
Many of them, it's more casual than that.
Yeah.
But to walk in with 5 radios and your vest and say, I'm here to be your communications person is not the approach to walk into an emergency operations center. And I only bring that up because unfortunately we've had it happen in our community in years past. And so we that's where that previous relationship is so important.
Yeah.
Because that's where those county or city or state officials are going to be involved in vetting who's coming to the facility.
So you've got the relationships, so you know who the players are, what the culture is, what the expectations are, and how to be a good volunteer.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And there again, some of those decisions are made by government officials that manage that facility. And it's not necessarily because you've done anything right or wrong. It's because they know what they can expect when you get there. And one of the key, management background is going to be a lot of it, because a lot of what's done at the Emergency Operations Center is more of a management skill than really anything. There are communications functions in and out, and if what you're simply doing is operating the amateur radio room or the ham shack at the EOC, then it's going to primarily be radio skills. And in many cases, that may be what you're asked to do. In my experience as a county emergency manager, my Aries team actually operated our amateur radio station, but they also were my EOC public safety radio operators. They were trained and they were assigned to operate our public safety radios that were coming in, communications in and out of the Emergency Operations Center, because they were comfortable on the radio. They did, there are some people that you hand them a microphone and ask them to talk on the radio, they freeze up because they've never done it before. And I knew with our Aries team that they could step right in and operate the radios, and that's what they were asked to do, and they loved doing it and did a great job at it.
Great.
So,
do you have any closing advice for hams who aspire to get assigned to EOC?
Yeah, there's many ways to go with that, and I guess that was the pause. I'm like, okay,
sure,
get involved.
But
remember, communications is about 2/3 listening and about 1/3 talking. And I think sometimes people get so excited that they want to demonstrate what they can do, they don't listen to what's needed. And so as you're going through, listen to what's needed. Listen to mentors. Find you someone that's been there, done that. And while everything they're going to tell you is not necessarily the only thing you need to do, use that as a foundation for making yourself a phenomenal MCOM operator. So, and that would be my main thing, is take the time to learn from other people. Not necessarily everything they're going to tell you is going to be 100% accurate, but they've got the experience that they can tell you that there are times that things are going to go perfect. There are times things are not going to go so perfect. But the other thing they're going to tell you is, when it doesn't go perfect, look back on it and say, what could we have done better?
That's when you're going to learn.
Yep, absolutely. Use it as a learning point. Use it as an opportunity to learn. So that would be my main recommendations.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for being here today.
Glad to be here.
Great. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We're going to be back in November. But in the meantime, feel free to send comments to ota@arrl.org. And if you want to learn more about ARRL membership, visit arrl.org for our website. Until next time, I'm Becky Schoenfeld, W1BXY73.